The Senate is set to vote on the National Defense Authorization Act just this afternoon. The Republican-controlled House narrowly passed its version of the measure last week. 4 Democrats voted in favor of the legislation after GOP lawmakers added a number of controversial amendments. Those additions included cutting Ukraine spending, along with restrictions on abortion rights and on transgender care. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion joins us now. Nikole, talk to us about these changes that are being made to the legislation in the Senate.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the vote that the Senate will take later today is mostly procedural, so this is not a vote on the final piece of legislation. In fact, the Senate will be spending the better part of this week making adjustments to the legislation. It's already passed out of the Armed Services Committee, and as you mentioned, the House has its own version of the bill, which has a lot of controversial amendments attached. Now, that doesn't mean that Senate Republicans will try to attach similar controversial provisions with respect to diversity or abortion, but the chances of them actually passing are slimmer in a democratically controlled Senate. So there is going to be some arm twisting, some back and forth, some wrangling as to what amendments actually end up on this bill, what amendments are actually voted on in this bill. And so those are some of the discussions and debate that will be occurring this week.
So let's double click on that. Democrats do hold a slim majority in the Senate. So if it passes, what would need to happen? What would be those amendments to make it work once it heads back to the House?
Well, as you noted with that House bill, I mean, keep in mind only 4 Democrats supported it. You know, what many argue is that this is a bill that has typically bipartisan support, overwhelming bipartisan support. And so that is why Leader Chuck Schumer put out a statement late yesterday basically warning members don't add all of these toxic amendments to this package because it will potentially pose problems. And so the hope that certainly Democrats in the House have is that maybe some of these more controversial provisions, whether that's rolling back the Pentagon's abortion policy by preventing service members from seeking reimbursement if they have to travel across state lines to get an abortion, rolling back policies like that, that hopefully that will not be part of this legislation, or for instance, efforts to roll back various DEI programs and initiatives, although there are some currently contained in this Senate version of the bill. But Democrats have made clear both in the Senate and the House that those are deal breakers. So really it is going to come down to what is called a conference committee. If in fact this legislation, a more moderate version, passes, let's say, where that is going to have to be reconciled with this House version that is loaded up with more controversial provisions. And so somehow they are going to have to come to an agreement both in the Senate and the House on a final bill. And keep in mind that Speaker McCarthy has tapped, for instance, Marjorie Taylor Greene to serve on this conference committee. She has been one. She actually put up some amendments in the House bill to try to strip Ukraine funding out of this defense authorization bill, and she is still insisting on doing that even if this bill comes to conference. So this is going to be a rough negotiation going forward should the measure clear the Senate, and again has to be reconciled with the House version.
Nikole, on the breaking news of the day, former President Trump says he's being targeted by the special counsel's criminal probe into January 6th. What has been the reaction on Capitol Hill?
Well, look, many Republicans and Democrats have been reacting as you would expect on party lines. The initial reaction from many Republicans, from Speaker McCarthy on down, is once again they feel that this is yet another example of a 2-tiered system of justice in their view, that the Biden administration is, weaponizing the Justice Department to go after one of its political opponents in former President Donald Trump. Democrats, on the other hand, particularly Pete Aguilar, who is the chair of the Democratic caucus and also served on the select committee that investigated January 6th, feels like there is merit to the Justice Department identifying the former president as a target, and he believes that there was enough compelling evidence in their own investigation. So he feels that if the Justice Department does move forward, that they, certainly have all the tools at their disposal to do so. So again, you're kind of seeing this split reaction between Republicans and Democrats, once again kind of politicizing this situation, even though we don't have any details about a potential indictment or potential charges yet.
And Nikole, there's been a lot of discussion around Israel this week. House Republicans are planning to take up a resolution in support of Israel as the country's president visits the U.S. Talk to us about the controversies surrounding this.
Yeah, well, as you may be aware, Israel's president, Isaac Herzog, will be here at the Capitol. He's at the White House today, but he will deliver an address to Congress tomorrow. And so ahead of that, you have House Republicans, which have introduced a resolution basically making sure all members of Congress go on the record affirming the U.S.-Israeli relationship, condemning anti-Semitism, and also condemning a language that Israel is a racist state. And that is a language that one Democratic member, Pramila Jayapal, used over the weekend at an event. She has since apologized and walked back those remarks, saying that she was just trying to diffuse a situation at a conference where some pro-Palestinian demonstrators interrupted. But she has retracted those remarks, and so it's not enough to quell Democrats, and some Republicans, which is why they are moving forward with this resolution to make sure members go on record with their sentiment ahead of the president's visit tomorrow.
All right, Nikole Killion, thank you.